Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Uncluded album, Hokey Fright. The Uncluded is the collaborative, musical, artistic duo of singer-songwriter Kimya Dawson and MC/producer, wordsmith man, Aesop Rock. Kimya is most known for her singing and songwriting on the Juno soundtrack, in the Moldy Peaches, and her numerous solo LPs. And Aesop Rock over the years has had quite the successful solo career himself. Really a giant in underground hip-hop, is incredibly well known for his very dense, verbose rap verses that are heavy with wordplay. His flow is pretty fast as well. He's really one of the most awe-inspiring lyricists in hip-hop today. Now Kimya and Aesop are both fantastic artists in their right. They're both people whose music I have admired over the years that I have known about them, but they are two people who, in my mind, I would never really have a dream collaboration sort of brewing up here. But maybe these two have more in common than it would actually seem to be just by looking at the genres that people typically throw them in. For one, they're obviously friends. Two, over the years, both of them have shown that they have incredibly potent dark sides, although Kimya's does tend to get a little more personal. Three, both of them in their songs can be incredibly playful. When it comes to writing lyrics, both of them are incredibly wordy and verbose. But is this enough to forge some kind of significant artistic relationship? They seem to think so. This thing has 16 tracks worth of artistic relationship on it. And it's not like this thing is their first real collaboration either. As I mentioned in a previous video, Aesop Rock showed up on a number of tracks from Kimya Dawson's last full-length LP, Thunder Thighs, and Kimya did make a one-track appearance on Aesop's new album, Skeleton. Like Thunder Thighs, on this new LP, there are moments where it seems like Kimya is playing her guitar and singing into a recorder, making a somewhat lo-fi recording, while Aesop spits over her guitars when she doesn't seem to be singing. However, that's not the only angle that the Uncluded takes on this LP. At times, this lo-fi recording is backed up with drum machines, or it would seem that nearly everything that Kimya and Aesop pull together on a track is drummed up in a professional studio. Through and through, this album really seems to explore every possible way that this collaboration could have worked, expanding a little further into Kimya's style sometimes, a little further into Aesop sometimes, and as it could be assumed, there are some parts on this LP that sort of crash and burn a little bit, or where Kimya and Aesop really get maybe sort of too indulgent, like on the song Why Do You Hang Up On Me, which is this weird beat collage with interruptions from either Kimya or Aesop just saying, "Why'd you hang up on me?" Which is sort of funny though, and I will leave it to you to decide whether or not 38 seconds of Aesop and Kim naming different kinds of sandwiches is a fulfilling part of the album. And there are some tracks on here that to me are sort of ruined by a bit of a technical issue, tracks like Delicate Cycle, or Scissor Hands, or Earthquake, where the vocals with Kimya singing and Aesop rapping right over her singing, it sounds like a complete mess. The vocals clash in a really ugly way, as if they were mixed at the same volume and they're competing to be heard. It's like you have two foreground vocals instead of a foreground vocal and a background vocal. Sometimes the vocals on these tracks don't even seem to sync up completely, which makes it even more difficult to decipher them. I see Aesop sort of conforming to Kimya's style a little bit on these tracks, but this could have been done better. It just seems like a weird issue not to take head on, especially since not every single song on this album suffers from this problem. Like the song Zombie Cafe, which sounds completely clean and fine, as well as the track The Aquarium. Actually, a lot of songs on this album go over well. Really well. To the point where I think this is some of Kimya and Aesop's best stuff. If there's one thing that makes this album awe-inspiring at its best, it's that Kimya and Aesop really love to go into songs with concepts, and it seems that coming together only enhances that side of their artistic psyches. Like the song TV on 10, which essentially feels like Kimya collaborating on an Aesop song, where he throws out these riveting verses about this plane crash and losing someone in a plane crash and hearing about it on TV and hoping that the plane you're hearing about doesn't have the person you love on it. This song has a really murky, moody beat, and the more I listen to it, just the more chilling it is. And the song Organs, which sort of continues the morbid theme of this album, feels like Aesop sort of rapping over a Kimya song, and this track is like a hilarious PSA for donating your organs after you've passed on. The song captures the philosophy of the sentiment perfectly. It's really the best musical PSA of 2013, hands down. Aesop's really wordy verses on this track are fantastic, and I love the verse when Kimya comes through talking about animals passing different parts onto other animals so that they may thrive, like when the whale gives its tail to the cat or the bird gives its wings to the bat. It's ridiculous. And the song Bats, which is the longest track on this entire LP, Kimya and Aesop come together and mourn the death of Minnesota rapper Idea. They do it with some really awesome, just inspiring wordplay, with Kimya talking about him saying he's the Minnesota Dalai Lama. Kimya and Aesop go on to sort of mourn his passing by watching bats fly. And with the lo-fi sounds, the warm bass, the guitars, the choppy beat on this thing, it's a fantastic meld of both of these artists' styles. And the song Alligator is a really dark and strange look at sex, lust, and specifically pornography, with a really heavy verse from Aesop talking about how when one gets into porn or is first exposed to porn, there was sort of a changing point there. There's a certain experience there that changes your mind and makes you look at things completely differently. I love how Aesop can really get down to Kimya's level and do something incredibly tender on a song like Teleprompter. And there are moments where they come together for tracks where it totally feels like they're goofing off on some abstract ideas, like Eyeball Soup, or the last track on this thing, Tits Up, which does get a little just overly long and kind of blah. But Kimya does manage to rap all over this track in a pretty entertaining way. Overall, in my opinion, it's a pretty good LP. If you can get past the clash of hip-hop and singer-songwriter, the clash of these labels, you will see that maybe they have more in common than we think. And I actually feel that Aesop and Kimya expose a sort of hidden potential for albums like this, because an incredible amount of tracks on this LP are earnest, they're intimate, they're personal, they are hilarious, thought-provoking, and lyrically / conceptually impressive. I'm actually happy to see their personalities come together so well on this project. I'm feeling a decent strong 7 on this thing. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's about it. Anthony Fantano, Kimya Dawson, forever. And Aesop Rock.